So I talked a little bit earlier, an earlier video about True Allele. It's this thing called a probabilistic genotyping software. And what's happening is that DNA science has become so sensitive to DNA that we can actually take a DNA sample out of the air. I mean, literally out of the air. We can take DNA off of surfaces around the lab, right, where they're practicing some pretty stringent cleanliness protocols. When we get a mixture of a DNA on a particular object, a DNA swab on an object or in a certain location or on a gun, let's say perhaps, or a windowsill or a doorknob, even a person, oftentimes the expert has a lot of difficulty saying what is the source of that DNA, right? Like, how did it get there? Not, sometimes there's a full profile of a defendant or a full profile of a person who lives in the home or a partial profile of one or the other. But the expert has a lot of trouble saying why or how that got there, right? The activity proposition of who deposited the DNA and how was the DNA deposited. It's my assertion for another video that that's an impossible scenario for experts without a tremendous amount of research that's not been done. But in order to make up for that issue in DNA science today, what's happened is that the human deconvolution of mixtures, right? So the human analyses of a complex DNA mixture falls short. And the protocols in place are difficult to really give you a good sense about who are the contributors to the mixture and what percentages are they there. Is it possible that this person's a mixture with a partial profile with a bunch of other, maybe one or two or three other contributors? And so the labs have moved to these mathematical programs called probabilistic genotyping software. And there are quite a few of them out on the market. The one that's used in Louisiana predominantly is a program called True Allele. It's based on a probability mathematics called Markov chain Monte Carlo. And Monte Carlo is a reason for it, right? And Markov chain's a reason, right? So it's a chain or a set of calculations where the program attempts to, like rolling the dice, find a solution for a mixture. So is this a good solution? 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 And the computer goes through these iterations or these steps of the process, right? 25,000, 50,000, 100,000 steps. And the computer would then settle on what is the best sort of fit solution for the mixture. Right? And it's attempting to do so in terms of allele balance and how much each contributor gives and how much this profile is in or how much that profile is in. And it gives you just this, normal distribution, bell curve distribution of possible solutions to the mixture. And then the analyst takes the defendant's profile, some unknown or other unknown profiles, or other known profiles, and maybe the person from whom the swab was taken, and then makes an analysis of, do these profiles fit any of these possible solutions? Any of them. Even way down on the distribution curve, somewhere way down here where there's all these other solutions that are more probably the solution than this one. And if the defendant's profile fits in that possible solution, then they'll return a probability calculus, right? They'll return a likelihood ratio of that person being a contributor to the mixture. Now, all that's super complicated, right? I bet everybody's listening understood every bit of that. Well, the truth of it is that very few of you will, because it's super complex. And I've just touched the surface. I mean, I've scratched the surface of this incredibly complex program. And I mean, there are mathematical triggers all in this matter. There are a number of algorithms being used, not just Markov chain Monte Carlo, but also a Metropolis-Hastings algorithm. There's also some algorithms relative to a measure of the chain itself and whether or not the chain is lost or whether it's a good chain or a bad chain. And then finally, the human factor, right? The human factor always comes in, right, of does this person match? And well, why does the human factor, like one of the big selling points for this program, and really all these programs, is it's defendant agnostic, which is to say that we do these calculations and we figure out the probability without even knowing the defendant's profile. Yeah, well, they figure out billions of solutions, and then they get the defendant's profile, and they're like, oh, look, the defendant's one of these billions of solutions. The defendant fits into it. And, well, it sort of begs the question, well, these billions and billions of profiles, don't you think you're going to get one where the defendant's, partial profile might fit into that? That's a good question, actually. But even more than that, what happens is that the analyst makes a determination based on all of these, like 3 or 4 or 5 different measures, right? At least in the local labs. And whether or not, because of those 4 or 5 measures, they can rely on, here's the trick, they can rely on the approximate or close value of two separate runs. So what they do is they say, here's two separate runs, and in these two separate runs that pass all of these checks, we got real close to the value of each one of them, so this must be the best solution, and then we're just going to return one of the probabilistic assertions, one of the likelihood ratios of these two runs. And you say, well, wait a second, if there was just two runs, what are the other runs, right? There are multiple other runs where the numbers are completely and utterly different. And those are just ignored, right? We had just had a case where there were two runs that matched all of the protocols and two other runs in the same evidence sample with the same data that matched all of the protocols. One of them was a 64 quadrillion likelihood ratio, and the other one was about a 50,000 likelihood ratio. The difference in the weight of those two cannot be overstated. In fact, the bottom one was very close to the limit of reporting for this particular lab. But instead of using the bottom match, the two matches, right, that passed all the protocols from the lab, that did everything it was supposed to do, instead of using that lower number to report against the defendant, they just arbitrarily chose the higher number and reported that. Because the lab personnel said from the stand, because it was a better probability match. Well, yeah, you mean it was better for the state? It was better for the lab, better for the state, better for a finding of guilty? But what about the others? I mean, this is a serious issue, right? And this is up, we have this particular case up on appeal because we don't believe that this program should be able to be used, right? If you can return on the same data, the same evidence, the exact same data, if you can return two like grossly different results that pass all lab protocols, then how is that reliable? And reliability is a cornerstone of the offering of evidence, of expert evidence in the courtroom. Reliability is one of the things that is required before evidence can be given to a jury. And in this case, how is something reliable if we can get two completely, materially different answers on the same data, on the same set of facts, on the same evidence, in the same case? That doesn't make any sense. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got True Allele evidence out there, if you've got a True Allele report, which is a couple of page report, and it's really hundreds and hundreds of pages, if you have a report out there, you don't know what to do with it, your client is ensuring you that they weren't there, that they're innocent, they should not be found guilty, you should challenge this case, the DNA is inaccurate, give us a call. Give me a call. Let us go through the True Allele report. Let us get supplemental discovery. Let us pull all of the information and do a full granular analysis of the True Allele results. And let me explain to you how to go about challenging that in the courtroom so that the jury understands. And if you can't do it, hire me to do it. I'll come in as co-counsel and I will cross-examine the state's expert on True Allele. Or I'll come in and take the stand as an expert and talk about this case, particularly where we had two results, same evidence, same data, two completely different results, two completely inconsistent and materially different results on the same data. And that's a big problem with reliability, right? It begs the question of, if they only ran it 6 times and they just got one pair, what if they'd run it 10 times or 20 or 25 or 30 times? Would they gotten 2 pairs, 3 pairs, 4 pairs that passed all their protocols and had completely differing results? Also, True Allele will give us a copy of the program to use on the data. We can do that too. So we can administer the program itself on the data and run it 10, 15, 20, 25 times, see how many pairs we get that pass the protocols, and go into court and tell the jury this program is useless. This program is useless because it keeps coming up with different results on the same data. And if you can come up with different results, materially different results on the same data, where's the reliability? Reliability is missing. And that means it's just nonsense, complete and utter nonsense. Give us a call. Give me a call here at the Ambeau Law Firm. We'd love to see that. We'd love to challenge that data. We'd love to challenge that program. We want the truth to come out. We want justice for these clients. We want justice for the people of Louisiana, and we certainly don't want evidence offered against them that's unreliable in terms of the rules of court and the rules of evidence, the rules of experts in the court of law. Give me a call today if you've got that. Give me a call today if you have some True Allele results that you need to take a look at. You need someone to take a look at. We'd be happy to do so. Thank you.